Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
And welcome into another episode of the Prospect Corner. I am your host, Matthew Zator, and of course, joined by my co-host, Peter Baracchini and Greg Boysen. We're back for another episode, and today we're going to start our World Juniors talk. I mean, it's coming. We're less than a month away now, and there's going to be a lot of coverage on World Juniors coming up here. Rosters is going to start getting released, previews, all that stuff. So we're going to have a ton of episodes dedicated to each of the countries as well. Today, we're going to start with just talking about last year's tournament and looking a little bit towards this one, because there's a lot of guys that aren't going to be coming back. There's a lot of guys that are going to be returning, and the teams may look different because, I mean, Team USA won gold last year, and Canada came in silver. And I mean, it was a tough game. US, very strong team. They're going to have another strong team this year. That's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the medalists from last year, Team USA, another strong team this year. And of course, they're not going to have their leading scorer, Trevor Zegras. He's with the Anaheim Ducks, and he's doing pretty well up there in the NHL now. So he's not going to help them out, but they got a lot of other guys that could. They got, Zegras had 7 goals and 18 points. He was a dominant forward for them, and big reason why they won gold. Start with this, Greg. I mean, you're big with USA hockey and all that stuff. I'll ask you this: who do you think will replace Zegras? I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be in that category, but who has the best chance of filling those massive shoes that Zegras has left on this team?
Yeah, then that's a tough one to fill. He had a special tournament last year. There's no doubt about that. And there's a lot of guys that can do it. You got a guy like Thomas Bordeleau, Matthew Coronado is going to be on that team. Guys we've talked about, they're going to be very deep, but I think the heart and soul and the leader of that team and Team USA will go as he goes is Matty Beniers. I mean, that's a guy, again, we've talked about him a ton on this show, pre and post draft. He's having a big year up in Michigan. He's a guy that's kind of lauded for his two-way game, but he's scoring a lot this season on a just completely stacked Michigan team. So finding ways to produce when there's a ton of talented guys on your roster, nothing new for him. He's got the experience from playing last year. So I think I think he's a shoo-in to be the team captain, and he's going to lead on and off the ice. So I really think it's going to be his tournament to shine and his team to lead. That's if I had to predict someone to have the Zegras-esque performance for Team USA, and they're going to need that because this tournament is going to be maybe one of the toughest we've seen in quite some time. Beniers is the guy for Team USA.
Yeah, I mean, Beniers had a great tournament last year too. I mean, as a draft eligible player, he didn't look out of place in that tournament, and that was probably a big reason why he got drafted so high. I mean, he would have got drafted high anyway, but he solidified that with his performance. So I have no doubt that he'll do it again. And of course, there's going to be a lot of guys on that team that's going to have a chance at doing that. But yeah, Beniers is probably the guy that's going to be the leader as well. Peter, we'll go to you on Team Canada. I've got them right here.
Good.
Team Canada is they're going to be another strong team this year, and they're going to lose. They're going to have a lot of guys that aren't coming back. Just amongst them, Dylan Cozens, Alex Newhook, Phil Tomasino, Dawson Mercer, Cole Perfetti, just amongst the ones that aren't coming back. But I mean, Canada can ice, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 teams that could have a good chance of competing in this tournament. But who do you think will step up to fill these guys' shoes? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we could probably go, well, we will have a whole show on them on Team Canada, but just early thoughts. Who do you think will do that?
Some somewhat good news. I'm hoping that maybe Cole Perfetti and the Manitoba Moose or the Winnipeg Jets reach some sort of conclusion, and maybe he does go over and play. Given the fact that he's still 19 years old, still has another chance to play. Quentin Byfield is skating right now after his fractured ankle, so not skating, but he's resuming off ice workouts. So that was a few weeks ago. So hopefully you have two solid forwards returning for next year. But other than that, even if they don't, the good news is they still have ample depth throughout their whole entire lineup. I mean, just recently, Mason McTavish and Henrik Lapierre were sent back to juniors in their respective junior leagues. So chances are they're going to be automatic locks for the team. You have Owen Power, who's just dominating University of Michigan on the back end. But in terms of offense, you also have, Ken Johnson still tearing up the NCAA. You have Dylan Genther looking really good in the WHL. Brennan Othman's looking very strong in the OHL right now. So despite the fact that you have very little players returning, they still have players that could step in, make an immediate impact. And I didn't even mention the queue with Xavier Bourgault, Maverick Bork, and a whole list of other players. And there's even like Connor McLennan, Logan Stankoven, Justin Sordiff in the WHL. So they have ample options. And I think depth is going to be really key this year, despite the fact that they don't have the power. I mean, you're going to say they don't have the power forward or the power of the forwards last year. But let's face it, they have the power of the forwards this time again this year, and they're going to be extremely lethal offensively.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned, I mean, Canada, there's so many long names. That's insane.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
And Matt, going to you right now, Team Finland placed third overall last year. Really strong tournament. It was led by Anton Lundell. This time around, again, similar to Canada, one of their key players is not going to be there, considering the fact that he's looking pretty good with the Florida Panthers right now. Who on that team right now is going to lead the offensive charge?
Well, obvious answer was, a couple seasons ago was Brad Lambert. You'd think that he'd be the guy, but there's projections that he's not even on this roster. So I mean, just like Aatu Räty last World Juniors, everyone thought, oh, he's a shoo-in to be on that roster. He never made it. But there's a guy that, I mentioned Räty. He's probably gonna be on this roster this year. And he's been pretty good this year too. So he's a candidate. You got, Tuomala. He's a guy that could score goals for Finland. Guys like Simon Taival, drafted by the LA Kings. So it's like, there's a lot of guys that are on Finland that could still score goals for them. But I mean, in the end, Finland's usually a good, hardworking. They rely a lot on their goaltenders. It's going to be another type of tournament that's going to probably be led by one or two guys. And they just play that really solid defensive style two-way hockey that gets them medals. And that's just every season and every year we're looking these, and it doesn't just go in the World Juniors, it goes Olympics and World Championships. They play that tight style, and they just need a couple guys that can score key goals at key times. And they've got guys that could do that. I mentioned already, guys, and Oliver Kapanen's another guy that he's a great two-way player. He can score goals, he can kill penalties, he can do all that stuff. So I think there's going to be a lot of guys on this team that will be able to do what, as a collective. I think it's going to be a team effort this time. They don't have that star forward. You could even see draft eligible guys as well. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what Finland can do this year. There's a lot of strong teams. We haven't even talked about Team Sweden yet. I mean, Sweden's got a ridiculously tough, powerful team this year too, that may have something to say about it. So, but in the end, I think Finland still has a good chance, just as a collective team.
Possibly prove that last year's tournament for Sweden was a bit of a fluke and an off year. So they got that going for them as well.
100%. No, just to finish off this discussion, talk about the team that almost won bronze in Team Germany. Germany had a great tournament last year, led by, of course, Tim Stützle, JJ Peterka, and Florian Elias. And they were the big three. I mean, they scored goals. They were dominant. But two of those three aren't going to be in this tournament. Stützle's starring for the Ottawa Senators, Peturka's in Rochester, and Buffalo Sabres there. Just go to you, Peter. Who's going to score for this team? I mean, that's two big power guys gone, and they led that team. And if anyone, I mean, who's going to do it?
Yeah, they're definitely going to have a lot of trouble trying to replace that scoring as well. A guy that I'm looking to is Julian Lutz, but he's been pretty injured and hasn't played a game all year. So his roster spot is definitely up in jeopardy or, in question for the team, because this is a player who has that power forward like mentality. He's gritty in the corners, has the size, has the strength to battle in front of the net and get those greasy goals. So he's got that power forward element to him. But I'm trying to look at their roster, maybe even someone like Luka Munzenberger, who was a Edmonton 3rd round pick this past draft in 2021. Maybe you try and get some offense from the back end from him. But then again, last year, 0 points in 5 games. Then again, Team Germany had a really rough start at the beginning, and then they sort of found their groove midway through. But hopefully, he's got 2 assists with the University of Vermont and the NCAA. So hopefully he's got that going for them. Maybe he's someone that maybe not really rely on the scoring, but maybe he's someone that could provide a steady presence and, keep the team composed and keep them focused and keep them moving going forward, because they're not going to be as strong as they were last year, given the potential that they lost. But I think maybe they could be a team that can still make some noise very quietly and, give a couple of teams a good run for their money.
Yeah. Guy that is up in the air. I mean, we don't know. Greg, you're plugged into the Rockford Ice Hogs. Do you think that Lucas Reichel could potentially get sent there, or is he just Chicago Blackhawks won't risk moving him to a tournament that he could get hurt in?
I mean, after the whole Kirby Dach debacle last year, they may pause, but I don't really see a reason why they shouldn't. And if they do, there's your answer. He's going to be the top player. He would have been one of the top players last year if it wasn't for that COVID positive test right before the tournament. If they would have had Reichel last year, I think they would have medaled. I mean, you called that top line, the big three. I mean, they were the three for that team last year. I mean, they scored 15 goals in 5 games. Germany did as a team. 13 of those 15 came from those top 3. Ilyich is back this year. We'll see if that was just his big numbers was just being a part of that line. But if Reichel goes, he's a dynamic player. I've seen him a lot in person this season, covering the Ice Hogs games. Just like any other young player, there's some nights where it just, you don't even realize he's playing, but then there's other nights where he makes plays where you're like, wow. And he's leads the Rockford Ice Hogs in goals. Now, I'll preface this by saying it's a low bar to hurdle, but he's still doing it. He's got 7 goals on the season. He's got speed, he's got size, he's got a shot, but he's also got great vision. He's made some ridiculous passes and picked up some highlight reel worthy primary assists. And he's doing this against AHL competition. There are a lot of prospects in the AHL, but a lot of it is former NHLers, longtime pros. So he's doing this against, grown men. He's not doing this against teenagers. So if the Blackhawks allow him to play a tournament, and honestly, I don't really see a reason why not. They're not in a rush to call him up to the team. If he was playing in Chicago, then I would say no, but he's in Rockford. I think they're taking the right approach with him and taking their sweet time in his development. I mentioned Kirby Dach earlier. He's a guy that probably could have used a season or 2 in the AHL before going to the NHL. And now we're all kind of like, hey, is this guy a bust at this point? So they're taking their time at Reichel. Let him go over, let him go and play. I don't see the harm in it. Everybody's going to say here in Chicago, well, Doc got hurt last year. Well, that was a freak injury. That was just, wasn't even a bad play. It was just a check at center ice that he jammed his wrist. So you can't keep these guys in bubble wrap. If he can handle the toughness of the AHL, he can handle the World Juniors without a problem. So if Reichel goes over, and I think he will be the most dynamic player for that team, and he will be the guy that's going to have to take that team on his back if they go on any chance to, advance to the medal round and make some noise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's a harm to send him over. I mean, he's he's not a guy that's, I mean, he's going to be dynamic. He could tough it out. It's not, and there's always risk for injury. It doesn't matter with any of these guys. When you send players to international tournaments, stuff happens. I mean, injuries happen. So,
and the
I think
the AHL is full of your old school enforcer types. That, your face punchers, if you will. So, he's been facing that kind of competition. So, and if he's going to have some freakish, weird injury, it could happen at any time. It could happen in practice. It could happen getting out of bed, for crying out loud. So you can't be worried about that. So I hurt myself getting out of bed every day, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll see. We'll see if he goes, and he's going to be a big guy to watch if he does go. Let's go to the next thing. We'll recap the awards. I mean, there's a lot of guys that were named the big award winners that aren't here this tournament. We'll start with the best goaltender. Devin Levi. We all know what he did in that tournament. He wasn't supposed to be the starter and be a dominant starter at that, and he was traded to the Buffalo Sabres. He's now a Sabre. Who is the best chance of winning it this year? Greg, we'll go with you on this one. What goaltenders? But there's a few really good goaltenders in this tournament. Who do you think has the best chance of unseating Levi as best goaltender
this year? If you like goaltending, which I do, this is your tournament. There are some studs going to be playing this year. I mean, you just look at all three goaltenders that were selected in the first round of the NHL draft the last 2 years are all going to be playing, and they're your favorites right now. Jesper Wallstedt, if you've watched us, I'm a huge fan of his, as well as Sebastian Cossa. Both of those guys should be their team's starters. Both of those guys are great. And then you have Yaroslav Askarov, who started a little slow last year's tournament. The big number one pick for the Predators in 2020. The can't miss prospect, stumbled out of the gates, but still had a pretty good tournament. I think he's going to be looking for redemption with Russia. A lot of people, for whatever reason, Russia is under the radar for a lot of people, and you can never overlook Russia in an international tournament. And when they got a talent like that in net, they're going to be very dangerous. So those are the top three guys. Obviously, they're the highly touted prospects. They're the first round picks. We all know goaltenders don't get picked in the first round very often. All three of these guys did in the last 2 years. They're your favorites, but there's some dark horses out there. You look at a guy like Joel Blomqvist on Finland. He's a guy that can steal you a game when need be. And you mentioned Finland earlier. They always have a defensive-minded game where he may have a sparkling goals against and save percentage just for the fact that he's not facing as many shots as some of these other guys. So He's a dark horse. And of course, it'd be a sin for me not to mention Team USA Chicago Blackhawks prospect goaltender Drew Commesso. He's going to be another dark horse, and he's on a super talented team. They're coming off the gold medal. I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle to win another gold medal. There's a reason we haven't had a repeat gold medalist since 2009. I mean, this tournament is stacked. So as much as I'm all about Team USA, it's going to be really tough for them to win back-to-backs. But if Commesso is on his game, they got just as good a shot as anybody else. So I know this is going to seem like a cop-out, but I really think the best goaltender award is going to go to the gold medal winning goaltender, because this tournament is so stacked with talent that it's going to take a great goaltending effort to win that gold medal. So, if I could predict that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. I'd be sitting in Las Vegas on my mounds of money. But if I had to make a prediction, we'll get to that later. So I'll save it for later. No spoiler alerts, but you got a lot of candidates, and who knows, somebody can sneak out of those top five guys and completely blow us away and steal a few games and become the darling of the tournament. That it seems to happen every year. So we shall see, as we like to say in these parts.
Yeah, there's so many goaltenders. I mean, again, you talked about dark horses. Who thought Devin Levi was going to be the best goaltender in that tournament? He wasn't even the first round pick.
Except for one game, I might add. In one game.
Except for one game. Yeah.
I got to gloat. I'm surrounded by Canadians. I have to gloat while I can. I only got a few days left to call them reigning gold medalists.
That's true. That's true. Spencer Knight was the better goaltender in that. So, and of course, he's with the Florida Panthers as well. So, let's go from the net to the defense. Best defenseman was your guy, Peter, Topi Niemela, Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, he's going to be in this tournament again. Do you think he has a chance to repeat, or does someone else have a better chance? There's a lot of great defensemen in this tournament as well.
Yeah. Obviously, from a Leaf perspective, I would love to see him win back-to-back and the third Maple Leaf to win the best defenseman over the past 3 years, with Rasmus Sandin and Niemela winning it last year, or Sandin the previous year in 2020, and then Niemela last year. Sorry, getting my years confused. But yeah, I mean, the way that he's just off his season right now, I mean, I believe he just got 2 more assists. So he's at 17 in 25 games. I mean, he's just unbelievable right now. And you can expect that success that he's having in the regular season to carry over into this tournament, no matter what. Very solid two-way game, very great mobility and puck movement. But like you said, you have other factors. You have Jake Sanderson on Team USA, who's possibly going to be a leader on that team again and be a major force on the back end. You have Simon Edvinsson, who's looking really good on Sweden. He's going to be a very strong go-to defenseman for Team Sweden. And of course, I mean, you look at Team Canada right now, and you have to look. I mean, you could probably make a case for Brandt Clark, Vincent Diorio, maybe if he makes a team. Well, not even Vincent Diorio, sorry, but like Brandt Clark is going to be leading the charge offensively. Lucas Cormier, maybe. I mean, but more importantly, like you have Owen Power. I mean, he was a top pick, top defenseman for a reason in 2021. So ultimately, if there's a really good player to challenge for him, Owen Power may succeed or like knock Topi Niemela off the pedestal and be the top defenseman of this tournament, mainly because of the fact that, he's a full package defender. He can hit, he can shoot, he can skate. He's essentially the same type of game as Topi Niemela. So I think it's going to come down to that. And you have a lot of great, strong two-way offensive-minded defensemen in this tournament. So Sanderson, Clark, Power, Edvinsson. Maybe you look at Daniil Chaika on Russia. Maybe he has an impact in the tournament as well. Simon Nemec on Slovakia. I mean, he's a top pick in this year's draft. Really great offensive mindset, but again, really great defensively as well. So a lot of names, a lot of competition for that top defensive award. If I have to pick one out of that whole entire group, and I'm not just being biased, but maybe the best bet is probably Owen Power at this point. Given the fact that, he missed the tournament last year and he easily could have made it, but I think this time around he's going to be more motivated and he's going to be a major force and leading Canada's offense from the back end.
Yeah, you didn't even mention Luke Hughes in there.
I didn't. Yeah, and that's my fault. So there's also Luke Hughes as well. Yeah.
How convenient. He leaves the American.
I mean, I mentioned Jake Sanderson, so
only because he was drafted by a Canadian team.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I was just about to ask you, Matt. Tim Stützle, obviously, Team Germany will not be back at this tournament. I mean, he won't be back for Team Germany at this tournament. Sorry, words getting crossed there. But who is the best bet to win best forward at this tournament? I mean, again, kind of like the goaltenders, kind of like the defensemen. Really, a lot of strong names, and I have an idea of who I think you're going to say, but I want to hear you say it first.
I'm going with Matty Beniers.
Okay.
Team USA. I mean, this guy he does everything. And I mean, he's doing it all in, Michigan. I mean, there's a ton of other guys that can, challenge that, but he's got a great chance of doing it. And I mean, you can list him off. William Eklund on Team Sweden as a big, he's already done it in the NHL. And, to come into this tournament with that confidence, even though he was sent back, he's, that confidence, just to know that he can play against those types of players. I think he could dominate this tournament and show why he should have been drafted first or second overall. So, I mean, there's a lot of names. I could throw out names galore and this go on the whole episode, but to me, I think Matty Beniers has the best chance to me to do that. And I'm curious to see what Peter, who thought I was going to pick, but yeah.
It wasn't Matthew Coronado, don't worry. But I was actually thinking, I was hoping you were going to say Matvei Michkov, because how
Michkov
great
would be. You know what's funny is I actually had him in my mind too. So I mean, he could.
Okay.
He could.
Because I mean, as a 16, 17-year-old coming into this tournament right now, I mean, he's just dominated every single competition as an underager. So it wouldn't surprise me if he does win best forward at this tournament.
Yeah, like I say, that name actually crossed my mind. But just looking at the, I just feel like Beniers has a chance to be breakout forward of this tournament. And you mentioned it, Greg, about his being at breakout guy for Team USA and taking over the Zegras mantle, and I think he can definitely do it. So I'm going with Beniers on that, but like I say, it's like a toss-up. I mean, you could pick anyone out of your hat for our best forward, because there's so many guys. It's gonna be a very fun tournament, just saying, because there's so many guys you could watch. Defense, forwards, goaltending. This is a hockey fan's dream, really, to watch this. So
it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've hit our midpoint. This is the Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. If you enjoy the show, of course, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is, there's a lot of great stuff on the channel. Lots of great shows. We mentioned them before. Grindline, Maple Leafs Lounge, Blackhawks Banter, Chicks and Sticks. Many others that watch them, because there's a lot of great writers that do them. And of course, check out thehockeywriters.com for all of those stories that the writers do as well. And, we have the daily download every day, almost every day after game nights, recapping the previous night's action and all that stuff as well. Join us on Discord. We have great conversations there of a lot of the teams. And of course, sign up for our Morning Skate newsletter. Lots of great stories every day. And, sign up at morningscape.io, because the writers do a great job. They're putting out that stuff. Lots of great stories that you don't sometimes maybe not see in a regular thing. So that's every morning. So yeah, Morningscape. Well, let's move on. We're going to start to go through the media all-star team from last year. And of course, none of them are going to be in this tournament. So we got some new names here. Let's start with the MVP. Of course, Trevor Zegras won that last year. We'll go around the table. Who do you think? Quick. Who do you think will win it this year? Greg, we'll start with you.
The MVP this year, you're going to see by my predictions in this segment what team I'm kind of leaning towards. I'm going with William Eklund from Sweden. I think he's just going to make this tournament his personal playground, especially if he's got a little chip on his shoulder, thinking he should still be in San Jose as opposed to the World Juniors. This kid is so talented, and he's going to be back on a stage that he's performed well on in the past. So William Eklund is my MVP choice for this year.
Peter, who you got?
Despite the slow start and being the number one overall pick, I do think Shane Wright is going to be in the running for the MVP. I mean, you saw the fact that, he didn't play a full season last year at the U18s, 14 points in 5 games, 9 goals, missed 1 game as a result, just for precautionary reasons, maybe to just rest him. Maybe he was a bit banged up, but he's the number one pick for a reason in this year's draft. And I do think that he's going to make Team Canada, no doubt about that. And he's going to come out with his best foot forward and prove why he's still going to be the number one pick this year. Obviously, maybe Matvei Michkov is going to be in the running as well, because, it's Matvei Michkov. Yeah. Got to throw some love to him as well. So I guess 1A, 1B is maybe Shane Wright and Matvei Michkov, 2 of the underagers for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, like I said, Beniers best forward, but I'm gonna go Dylan Guenther, Team Canada. He's been tearing it up again for the Oil Kings, and I mean, this guy was supposed to go to the Canucks, in my opinion, but of course they traded that pick away. He's on the Arizona Coyotes, but he's just such a lethal scorer. He was great in the under 18s, and again, this this category gets so many names involved. Beniers could be in there. You mentioned Eklund, Greg, and there's just tons. Matt Michkov, Shane Wright, Connor Bedard. I mean, this guy, he's not tearing it up as much as he did last year, but it's a short tournament. You catch it on fire, you never know, right? So lots of names, but I'm going to go with Genther on this one by a hair. Let's go to the media all-star team, which is chosen by, of course, the media. It's comprised, of course, of a goaltender, 2 defense, and 3 forwards. Let's go quickly through this. May have some same names, but Peter, we'll start with you. Who's your all-star team that's going to be?
Yeah, this is going to be going to be up in the air. So to be determined. This is just more of a mock thing. So don't take us.
This is quick. Yeah, very
quick. I'm going to say best goaltender is going to be Sebastian Koza. Defense, I'm going to pick Owen Power and Topi Niemela. I think those two are still going to have a very strong tournament. As for the forwards, you got to go. I think Matt, I agree with you, Matty Beniers. I think he's going to have a very strong tournament. So I think it's going to be Beniers, Wright, Michkov as my top 3.
Yeah, that's solid choices. Greg, you have any other different names, or are you going to repeat a few of those?
No, I've got some different names here. I've got Jasper Wallstedt as my goaltender. I think he's going to have a huge tournament. My defensemen are going to be Wallstedt's teammate on Sweden, Simon Edvinsson, as well as Luke Hughes. I think he's going to have a breakout tournament. Those are my 2 defensemen. Obviously, if I picked Eklund as my MVP, he's going to be one of those top 3 forwards. I'm going to have him with Matty Beniers, and I'm going to put Mason McTavish in those top 3 too. I think he's going to have a big tournament. Yeah.
Yes, his shot is absolutely lethal.
Oh yeah. That's a precursor, a little bit of a spoiler to who my prospect of the week will be. I just spoiled it, whatever. Mine are going to be Sebastian Koza in goal, because he's been just amazing for the Oil Kings. And, he's my goaltender for sure. Owen Power, one of my defense. And I'm going to go with Topi Niemela for another guy as well. Of course, I picked Dylan Genther as MVP. So he's my other guy, Dylan Genther, and Matty Beniers and William Eklund will round out those forwards. So there's a few names that I repeated there, but I agree. Eklund's going to have, I think, a monster tournament. I said before, the NHL, he's already shown he can score in the NHL, and I think he was really good anyway. He could have stayed. So, I mean, I think he's going to have a huge tournament as well. So, I mean, that's All-Stars. As we go with the All-Stars, let's go quickly through our other best goaltender, best defenseman, and best forward. Who are your picks? Start with you, Peter.
Best goaltender, Sebastian Koza. Best defenseman, I want to say Topi Niemela, but Topi Niemela / Owen Power. It's hard to choose. And I think top forward, I think it's going to be Matvei Michkov.
Yeah, those are solid choices. Greg, who are you 3?
Spoiler alert, I really like Sweden, so I'm going to go with Wallstedt, Edvinsson, and Eklund. I mean, those guys, if Sweden wins gold, it's going to be because those 3 guys are at the top of their game, and it very well could be. So yeah, I'm going to need to get a red and yellow and blue jersey behind me for the next couple of weeks.
Trey Koner.
Yeah, right.
I can't root for Canada. If you guys ain't gonna do it, I gotta cheer for Sweden. So,
I mean, hey, great jerseys, great team, no matter what, man.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Sweden's always been, of course. Canucks have always drafted Swedes, and they're always front and center in a lot of the places. So Sweden's always my second team to watch. Not sure if any Canucks are going to make it into this one. Lucas Forsell maybe has a chance. He's been doing pretty well, but just too much talent. He probably won't make it in. But yeah, my 3, I'm going Sebastian Koza for best goaltender. Again, I already said what type of guy this guy has been doing. My defense, I'm I'm going to go with Owen Power on that one, / Luke Hughes. I think Luke Hughes, I agree with Greg. I think he's going to be a powerhouse in this as well. And again, he wasn't in the under 18s. We didn't see him there, but I think he's got a chance there here too. My best forward, I said Dylan Guenther, the All-Star and team MVP, but I'm going to go with Matvei Michkov on this one. He's so amazing at the age he is. It's ridiculous. And if Connor Bedard wasn't in a conversation, he'd probably be first overall, but you never know, right? Whatever team gets that first overall pick in 2023, it's going to be a toss-up. I mean, you could pick Bedard, you could pick Michkov and probably be saying, oh, whatever, it's great. Yeah. So it's just like Ovechkin Crosby type conversation there. Who do you go with, the lethal goal scorer or the all around type offensive guy? So I mean, I don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals say which one they would have picked either. So I mean, it's going to be insane to watch that draft. So yeah, those are my three. And so let's finish up this show as we always do with the prospects of the week. Peter, we'll start with you. Who's your prospect of the week right now?
I just want to correct myself. I believe I didn't say it properly. I said Trey. I want to make sure it's proper. Trey Kroner. I'm pretty sure I messed that up, but you know what? I'm talking a little bit too quick. I need to slow things down a bit. But back to the topic at hand. Prospect of the week for me. I am going to go with someone that Shane Wright is very familiar with, Brennan Othman of the Flint Firebirds. I was very high on him during the 2021 draft. I always had him in that 15 to 20 range, and good thing for the New York Rangers, they picked him up 16th overall. And obviously you can't ignore his results and his production. 13 goals, 11 assists, 24 points in 16 games. And over the last week, he got a hat trick and a 4-point game against Windsor and finished the week off with the 3 goals and 5 assists. So very good production. The New York Rangers have got a really strong offensive power forward. Guy likes to get in your face as well, so he's not afraid to mix it up. So he's got the makings of a really steady offensive producer at the NHL level. So he's my prospect of the week.
Yeah, and he'll have a good chance of the World Juniors too to solidify that that pick that the Rangers did. So I mean, we'll see what he does there. Greg, who you got prospect of the week?
I'm heading to the WHL, and I am taking Ridley Gregg of the Brandon Weekends, who has been white hot these last few games. This was a kid that had a huge draft year. He had 26 goals, 60 points for the Wheat Kings, and then was taken 28th overall in the first round by the Ottawa Senators. Last year, we can say this about 95% of the kids that played last year. Last year was a weird year. Of course, we remember he had that COVID case right during the World Junior selection camp. I don't think he would have made the team, but it's still, you never know. And then last year, he still performed well. He had 10 goals, 32 points as an assistant captain with the Wheat Kings. Got to play a little bit in the AHL. Got his first taste of pro action. This year, he's the captain of the Wheat Kings. And now he's always been, he could score, but he's always been more of an assist guy than a scoring guy. But all of a sudden now he's lighting it up. He's got 12 goals, 23 points in 14 games this season. But in his last 4 games, he has 7 goals and 12 points. He is on fire. And maybe he's one of those guys. He's getting hot at the right time. Maybe that translates to a roster spot on Team Canada. We'll see. It's going to be really tough. But, I mean, he's playing his best hockey at the right time. And he's one of those guys that, he can score. He can set up. He's one of those, like, energy guys. I know we throw that term around, but his motor is always running. He's constantly getting involved in the play. If there's a scrum on the ice, you can bet that he's in the middle of it. And if he doesn't see a scrum, he'll start the scrum. He's either jumping in or starting it. You kind of need that edgy guy in a tournament, a short tournament. So he could be a dark horse to make that roster. We mentioned so many names, but as we know, stranger things have happened. But he could be one of those guys that maybe makes it as an extra skater and then gets in and performs well in a big game. Yep. So Ridley Gregg, not picking him just because of the last name. It's spelled differently, but he's on fire. So he's my prospect of the week. Let's see if he can keep it going.
Yeah. I'm going to make it a clean sweep here of Team Canada. Mason McTavish. I alluded to him. I kind of spoiled it before, but he's my prospect of the week. He returned to the OHL, of course, puts up a hat trick in his first game. So, I mean, Peterborough Petes are probably ecstatic to have him back. They're struggling this year, and our managing editor is happy about that, getting him back in the lineup. So, shout out to Dean there. So it's Mason McTavish. He was amazing. He made it to the NHL already. He played the 9 games and was sent back, but he had some success and played in the NHL. So he's not very far away from that NHL spot. So of course he goes and lights it up in his first game back. Shows why he's such a prospect to watch for the Anaheim Ducks, and why they drafted him so high. So, I mean, it's, that hat trick is just a exclamation mark on why he's so good. So again, power forward. He's pretty quick as well, and really smart too. So yeah, Mason McTavish is my prospect of the week. And I foresee a really great season for him, and a solid World Juniors as well, because he'll be with Team Canada for sure. And he just showed why. So hat trick in his first game back. So yeah, that's the prospects of the week. 3 great choices again, and all have chances at Team Canada. So we may see them and talk about them in a few weeks when we do that Team Canada preview. So that's it. That's our show for today. And thanks again to everyone for joining us for another episode of the Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. Of course, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, throw those comments down below. Who do you think should make any of these teams? There's a lot of choices. Who do you think could be dark horses? Just throw them in the comments, because we love to talk about it, and we'll talk about them on the next show. So again, morningskate.io to further our Morning Skate newsletter. Lots of great stuff there. YouTube channel, a lot of great shows, daily downloads, on thehockeywriters.com. And of course, on Discord, you could discuss anything from World Juniors to the NHL to prospects to everything on that Discord server we got at the Hockey Lounge. And we're going to have great coverage coming up as well in the World Juniors, starting with our team previews. We'll be starting that pretty quick here. So, stay tuned for that, because this is going to be deep dives into each of the rosters, and, projected rosters may not be finalized when we do them, but it's going to be pretty close, I think, to a lot of these teams. So we'll have dedicated shows. We may have some guests. Who knows? We'll maybe get some guys on the show apart from the 3 faces you see every week here. So lots of great stuff coming. And of course, right after that, draft coverage. There's a lot. 2022 draft is coming up fast in Montreal, and we'll be talking nonstop about that throughout. So stay tuned for that. And of course, stay tuned for next week. We'll be talking more prospects. For Peter and Greg, this is of course Matthew, and join us next time in the Prospect Corner.